Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Believe in Bengal podcast with yours truly, Solomon Wilcots. And today we have a very special guest here on Valley Sports Ohio. It is senior writer Geoff Hobson of Bengals.com. Of course, he is our Bengals insider. And Geoff, we had to call and convene this special meeting between you and I because I want to help Bengals fans who've got to be feeling a little crestfallen right now as we check in 1-3 after our first 4 games. There's so many things to point to. So we're going to walk through it a little bit. First of all, welcome to the show. How you been doing?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Solly. Like I said, I enjoyed listening to you. The wife and I enjoyed listening to you on the way back from Nashville this morning. It was you and Ryan Leaf, I believe, and it was a good listen.
See, people don't know my Sundays are spent watching all the games, right? Yep. I'm sitting here pulling data. I'm writing all day from 12 noon to midnight, getting ready for a 3-hour show the next day. And it's content that I have to distribute every single day, 3 hours every morning on Sirius XM NFL radio. So that's where you can find us. But we try to put the work in, as you well know. You got to put the work in before you can make a withdrawal. Speaking of which, I know you met with Zach Taylor. I know you listened in on what the coaches and players had to say following the heartbreaking loss in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. Right now, Cincinnati Bengals rate dead last, averaging just over 12 points per game. We haven't even scored a touchdown in the first half of any of the 4 games all season. What are the coaches saying about the lack of production on offense? Why have we hit the skid and unable to score points?
Well, Joe Burrow's going to start in Arizona. If there was any doubt, that was the first question asked, and it was the first definitive answer given.
Right.
He's still a guy, and I think Zach today kind of focused on third down and keeping these drives alive because that's where this thing breaks down. I mean, they were 0 for 5 on third down at the start of the game, of which that's when the game was dictated. I mean, like he said, the pivotal point in that game was the second quarter. All those big plays. I think Tennessee had 6 passes of at least 22 yards. And meanwhile, the Bengals had a combined 20 in that same stretch. The Bengals had a combined 21 yards. So I think Zach feels it's really imperative to get that thing squared away on third down. And, you can get into the weeds about Burrow's mobility. Teams are just teeing off. And I think, from Zach's sense is, I think, is if they can get, convert one of these early third downs, the thing is going to be different because it puts everybody in a different mind frame. They're in a better flow. The defense is they've given the defensive break, and I think he's just really he's still kind of focused on those early stages of the game.
Geoff, what are you seeing? And I get the sense the Cincinnati Bengals team that we're watching, particularly on offense, and this is what I'm hearing from a lot of fans. I'm having coffee at the coffee house. I'm at the pubs. I see you around town as well. And I'm sure many of the fans are really wanting to know that it's clear that Joe Burrow is not 100%, that this calf injury has not only impacted him, but it's impacting the way that they're calling the offense around him. What is your sense of the limitations that Joe have? I know it's about the mobility, but the limitations for the entire offense based on this injury.
I think it's both are coming to both Zach and Joe are trying to come to terms with that this is not the guy that we know. I mean, as far as and I think everybody gets that. And so the next question is how can you win with that? And it's hard. I mean, that is the answer. And I think we talked to T. Higgins a little bit today, and I think it kind of Zach's out of that same mind frame. T is saying, we have to take what they give us. Take what they give us. And when you do that, you have to execute that. For instance, on the best drive was their first drive, and they executed on every play. except the last one when when they had the next to last one on the pass that got knocked down, and then
That's right.
they saw the light box and they thought they could take advantage of it. They're at the 6, and I think this is the thing that you have to, I think they're going through the process of adjusting. They've got a different quarterback than they did the previous 2 years. So I think a lot of that is going into it too. But, I think a big thing too is mindset. And I think Zach's convinced and he says he doesn't do that often, but I think he thought it was imperative after this one. They're not playing like those guys that we know, but the key thing is they still have that confidence. I think that's what Zach's hanging his hat on.
Based on what you've heard from the players and what you heard from the coaches, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to, to the best of your ability, give me how they would respond to that, because I know you're in there a lot and you're hearing what the players and coaches have to say. And this is probably part of the frustration. Short drops, everything's out of shotgun. About 90% of the plays from shotgun. Short drops from Joe Burrow. And he's looking to get rid of the ball quick. So the routes are not being pushed down the field. We're not forcing the defense to defend the entire field and every blade of grass. And as the game goes on, some of those routes are open early because these receivers are very talented. Yeah. But as we want to push the ball down the field and we got to get rid of it quickly, the field starts to shrink as the game goes on. And now they're sitting on everything. And the defenders getting their hands up, tight windows for Joe to try to squeeze the ball through. And it's almost like as the game goes on, the field becomes smaller. The pocket for Joe becomes squeezed and there's more traffic. And teams are saying, let's just send everybody. Let's send more than they can block. And now we got 3 runners, unblocked defenders, coming in at Joe Burrow. And it's seemingly becoming a more precarious position behind an offensive line that I think is playing better than what people think they are.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to pass block that's the age old deal. And I think that I think they're viewing it as a situational thing because their starts have been in game get off the dime. And when you don't get off the dime offensively, that that dictates really how this game is going to go.
It snowballs on you. It snowballs, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And they're just able to tee off, and even when the game is even, they're able to tee off too. And I think, but that's why they had that 10-point game against the Rams. That's why that game played out so differently than the losses. That's the first time they had a lead. And given where Joe is, it's imperative to get that quick start because, because he is limited. I think the thing that strikes me about that is that when they that helps. You can see they're talking about complementary football, because the defense is on the field longer. It goes back to third down. And it goes back to not getting into the flow right away. So, they're talking about a spark, and I was talking to Tyler Boyd in a similar situation. 0-2, slow start, Burrow coming off of the appendectomy, no long balls downfield. And then Boyd made that play against the Jets at the end of the half where, he split 2 defenders in the 2-minute drill and stunned them with a late big play. And that kind of got them rolling. And I think, honestly, they feel like that's right now. They need, like Jamar said, we're looking for a spark. And I don't think it's a player. I think it's a play.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. They need a big play, and it tends to breed on itself. When you don't get them, you can begin to press. And man, the frustration begins to build because these guys are too talented not to create big moments within the offense. And I know they've got to be feeling it. Give us an update on T. Higgins. We're hearing he's got a rib injury and could miss some time.
Yeah, T said it sounded like it wasn't as bad as maybe people thought. He's going to try and play this week, he said. and don't know if he can do that, but he's talking about wearing a pad. He wants to play, which I think shows you again that what Zach's, concocted down there culture-wise. Here's a guy in a contract year, and he's got this rib. Says he wants to play. His team's 1-3. I mean, it says something about T. Higgins, says something about the Bengals. So, he's going to try and he's going to try and go. Kenny, I don't know. Somebody made the point today that, geez, if T doesn't play and Charlie Jones is on IR, they're not going to have a guy in the field that scored a touchdown this year. So, it is, Higgins has been, Higgins scored the 2 touchdowns against Baltimore, and I thought again, I go back to that first drive. I thought that was effective. There wasn't a big play, but they matched down the field, slants, stopping, a comeback, a couple of screens to chase. I know it's tough. It's not I think they feel like, and Higgins said this today, he feels like if they just keep doing that, if they keep hammering it and are able to cash those for points, it's going to open up. Teams are not going to let them sit there and do that to them, but they can't string it together, whether it's a penalty or whatever.
Yeah, without a T. Higgins, where's the production? Is it an Andre Isovas from Princeton who gets penciled in there, providing they have the spelling, even if it's for moments in game?
Yeah. Well, how do they respond? Is it Irwin like they did basically Irwin was active pretty much to return punts because Charlie Jones is out. They obviously didn't see him as the fourth receiver, but he ended up being the fourth receiver. So, but now how do you respond to that if he can't go against Arizona? Do you go more? They haven't done very much 12 this year. They've been pretty much 11. 3 receivers. So do they go more double tight ends? I think that's going to have to be. We see how the week goes. I think it's just exactly what T can and can't do. But it's a tough time to lose them when they're trying to get their sea legs offensively. He's a tough guy to have out of there.
All right, let's turn our attention as we will now get set to head out to the desert for a game that we need badly in order to correct what's been taking place. This is a game against the Arizona Cardinals that the Cincinnati Bengals would love to be able to come back saying, okay, we've got one in the win column. So tell me, what are we facing with this Arizona team? Let's face it. They were stopped last week by the San Francisco 49ers, but they scored 28 points week 2 against the New York Giants. And then they scored another 28 points week 3 against a really good Dallas Cowboys defense where they ran up over 200 yards rushing against that Cowboys offense.
Well, I think the Lou Anarumo is going to do, we just talked to him. I mean, the explosives. And I think that's what Arizona seems, that quarterback seems to have a pretty good, he's having Dobbs he's had a nice start to the season, and he's been able to push it downfield, and that is going to be circled. That's job one on Sunday is you can't let those guys get behind you. I mean, now Cam Taylor-Britt, I think, is a question mark too. The corner had a rough day Sunday, had 2 long ones thrown. And he's been so good. Cam's been so good since he came off the bench, and he got dunged. So I think he's in concussion protocol. We may see DJ Turner. We may see the rookie DJ Turner. But who's ever there, they were, like you said, there were 6 explosives and Lou Anarumo said this. I looked. It was 3-3. It's a Titans Bengals game. He said it was a Titans Bengals game, and like it always has been, and then all of a sudden it was 24-3, so they can't get behind out there. They're on the road. Team can obviously score points, but I think that is an attack. That's the 2 things that the guys were talking about today. They talked about it yesterday too. Tackling. Most missed tackles they've had in 3 years. 12, I think we said, and they just it's a good tackling team. So of course the question is why. So they can't go up to Arizona, give up 6 explosives in the second quarter, and have 12 missed tackles. because this team, could be a better offense than Tennessee. Probably is a better offense than Tennessee.
It was a hot day down in Nashville.
Yeah.
And when you got to tackle someone like Derrick Henry, you've got to be better in the fourth quarter at tackling him than you are in the first quarter. We were not. That's where he kind of wears you down. And as he starts to break one tackle, then break another, you and I both know, man, it becomes a chore to get him on the ground. And that's what happened. It's the most explosive plays I've seen the Lou Anarumo defense give up since I think he's come over and become our defensive coordinator. Certainly uncharacteristic. You're not going to see Jermaine Pratt miss a lot of tackles. You're not going to see our linebackers miss tackles and our safeties as well. So I expect that to get corrected. But offensively, going up against this Cardinals defense, I know people think it's the Arizona Cardinals. This should be an easy win. But for whatever reason, I've seen this team play very well under their new head coach, Jonathan Gannon. Remember, he was the defensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles 1 year ago, and he has them really competing and playing rather well.
Well, also, there's a book on Burrow now. There's a book. It was, Cleveland wrote a chapter, Baltimore wrote a chapter, and Tennessee probably supplied the blueprint, I would say. It's like you said, they're going to come after him. And Tyler Boyd said this after the game. He said, and we're probably going to see, I would imagine we're going to see plenty of blitzing from Arizona, right? I mean, they blitz.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, they blitz anyway. And so you've got Tyler Boyd said, look, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'd do that too, because, we haven't been able to and Joe's usually great against it. He's usually the leading quarterback against the blitz.
Against the blitz. 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. Yeah.
Now it's flipped. And so Boyd said, look, go ahead, but, at some point we're going to get out of this and we're going to take advantage of the blitz. So, I think they're thinking, okay, go ahead, blitz us. And then that's where that big play, maybe that spark comes from a blitz. But I think, again, it's all tied to the quarterback, right? I mean, what can he do? What can't he do? And it's if you're a play caller, like Zach, it's a tough. I mean, he's in a tough spot because he's got to be part doctor, part. You know what I mean? When he's making a play call, so it's not an easy. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but I would, I think to a man, their confidence hasn't been dinged, which is really important. I mean, what they're saying, I think it's encouraging, and I think you don't go 5-2 in the last two postseasons, and you're not. You know what? When 1-3 is not good, but when you've been 5-2 in the postseason, you got a certain sense of resiliency. And this from those Bengals teams in the 90s. You guys crawled out of some holes yourselves.
Yep. No doubt. Now you got to believe that you're still good. But then you got to earn the right to believe that, right?
Well, and Joe said that, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I got to ask you this. I know this offensive line is better. Yeah. They've given up 8 sacks in the first 4 games. He's been hit. Joe Burrow's been hit maybe more than we would ever like. Help our Bengals fans understand that this is not the same offensive line that protected Joe in the Super Bowl against the Rams. They're much better than that. So why is our quarterback still getting hit? Help us to understand that. I think this has got to be maybe more than just about those 5 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback isn't as mobile, for one. And I think Teddy Karras said this yesterday, the center, getting more pressure up the middle. People are pressuring. People are coming. They're getting different looks. They're coming right up the middle. And I think you said there's a certain there's a certain lack of they're just kind of zeroed in on the. They kind of know what is coming. They know that it's like you said. It's tough to block when the defense has kind of seen what your quarterback can and can't do. right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
it's you know, and when you're when you got a pass block 30, when you get behind, and I think this is the other thing. This
Yeah,
team hasn't had the lead but maybe 10 minutes. So you got to tip your hat to the offensive line,
that's right.
really,
That's right.
because they never. I mean, these people they're pinning their ears back. I mean, so
Right.
it's they've definitely. I mean, I think you're right. They've definitely upgraded this line, and I think it shows
Oh yeah.
because
It'd be worse. It
yeah,
would be a much worse
yeah,
given the scenario
yeah,
behind that previous offensive line. I tip my hat to these guys because they're fighting. They're
yeah,
sending more than they can block, and they're
yeah.
running a lot of twists. They're running a lot of stunts, but they're gaming to get pressure in the face of Joe Burrow, knowing that his lack of mobility doesn't allow him to escape outside. Right.
Right. Well, and also too, and Paul Dana makes a good point about this. The fine beat writer for the Athletic. The Burrow at least once a game would keep the ball and go right up stun you up the
That's
middle,
right.
big with a big
That's
run.
right.
I mean, not
Yeah.
just a little 5 yard run, but a big,
He would
11,
hurt
12,
you. He would hurt you. Yeah.
third down, everybody's coming and boom, and and that's no more. So that's big too, I mean, so, I mean, it's amazing. I think, you know, people obviously want count them out. And I guess at 1-3, I guess that's what's going to happen. But you know, they've you just think that they're too good that it's going to keep going like this.
That's
And I
right.
think that
Mm-hmm.
obviously they got to they I think they're taking. I think some of the guys are kind of probably looking at what the Titans did. They look like the Bengals did a week ago in Cleveland, maybe worse. I
That's
mean,
right.
they only got 9 yards up in Cleveland, and they were left for dead. I mean, and that's what Henry said. That's what
Then
Henry
they
said.
turned it around, and then they
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
it around.
I mean, Henry had his worst day in 6 years.
20
And then
yards on 11 carries. That's
yeah.
what he did.
So I know, this. I mean, and this, Solly, as well as anybody about this league. It can change. That's why you guys have overreaction Monday, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. All right. Hey, one last question before we let you go. You've been so great at providing some very cogent and intelligent answers. I think Joe Mixon is one of the most improved players. His pass protection, his willingness to block and pass protection has been phenomenal. He's gotten off to such a great start these first 4 games, the way that he's running the ball, the way that he's patient and understanding the flow of the linebackers and reading the blocking, and then his ability to tack down the field. He brings what Derek Henry brings to the Titans. That's what he brings to the Cincinnati Bengals offense. So I want you to tell me something about Joe Mixon. Why is he now literally he's performing like our best offensive player in the first month of the season?
He's their most valuable player, offense, defense, special
That's right.
teams.
That's right.
Joe
That's
Mixon has
right.
been their most valuable player because he's been there every game. And
Yeah.
when they've called on him, 4.5 yards a pop, right? And
Yep.
that's what makes Mixon special is, and he was mic'd up one of these games. It was after the Rams game, and a guy came up to him. One of the Rams said, I tell people you're the best back in the league, and
Yeah.
that's what I tell people. I say he's the best back in the league because
Yeah.
he can whatever you want him to do,
He can
he'll
do.
do, and he'll
That's
do
right.
it. I mean, he is a team guy.
Yeah.
He'll block. He'll catch a check down. He'll
Yeah.
if you need to go, if you're in overtime and it's a tie game and you got to go to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
he'll give you
Yeah.
5 the bags, the 5 carries to chill the clock. So and he does what's ever asked. He'll even take a pay cut. So
That's right.
to me,
That's right.
so to me, he's as just as much as Joe Burrow personifies his team, and I think Joe Burrow personifies toughness to the nth degree. And I think Mixon is a very unselfish. I think Mixon's a very unselfish guy. I think he's a hell of a player. I think his the of Mixon is uh, uh, he'll be whatever you want him to be.
For those of us who know football when we see it, and you have all these boxes that you want players to check at every single position. And then you have the other traits of leadership, the guy that the other guys in the locker room follow. And so they set a good example on the field and in the locker room. Joe Mixon is that guy. I mean, he just really is that guy. And I can tell you right now, there is no defense in the NFL that wants to tackle him or have to cover him coming out of the backfield. He's our Christian McCaffrey. And you and I both know that's a big statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. No, because McCaffrey's unbelievable. But but you don't notice a guy like Mixon until now. When it's when it's gut check time, and guys are manning up, and it's he's coming to play because they know they need him.
Well, look, our quarterback is showing tremendous courage. He needs our support, Cincinnati. We want you to continue to support these Bengals. Continue to support the players when they're going through tough and difficult times because they're playing their hearts out. And it starts with the quarterback. The guy's less than 100%, still showing up to work. And I know Zach Taylor said it's got to get better in practice. He's given us everything he got. And sometimes the heart is willing and the body isn't able. I know what that means. Trust me. And right now, these guys are just trying to get healthy. They're trying to get better. They're trying to get well. They need our support. This is where Cincinnati Bengals fans show exactly who we are and what we're about. Senior writer for Bengals.com, Geoff Hobson, thank you for joining us right here on the Bengals, Believe in Bengals podcast, I should say, on Valley Sports Ohio. You're the best, my friend. Keep up the great work.
Make sure you check out BetOnline for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.